I never imagined I'd be here, typing this out for strangers on the internet. My name is Tom, and I've been married to Emily for 15 years. We've had our ups and downs, just like any couple, but I always believed we had a solid foundation. We have a beautiful 10-year-old daughter, Lily, who has been the light of our lives. Emily and I met in college, and from the moment I saw her, I was smitten. She was smart, funny, and had a smile that could light up the darkest room. We got married right after graduation and started building our life together. For years, our relationship seemed unbreakable. We were the couple our friends looked up to, the ones who seemed to have it all figured out. Sure, we had our arguments, but who doesn't? We always managed to work things out and come out stronger on the other side. Or so I thought. Recently, though, things have felt different. Emily has been distant, more absorbed in her phone, and less interested in spending time together. I chalked it up to stress from her job. She's a marketing executive at a big firm, and her workload has been brutal lately. I've been trying to pick up the slack at home, handling Lily's school runs, cooking dinner, and making sure the house doesn't fall apart. But despite my efforts, the distance between us has only grown. There were little things at first. She'd come home late from work more often, claiming she had to finish up some projects, or she'd go out with friends and come back smelling like she had been at a bar, even on weeknights. I didn't think much of it initially. I trusted her completely. But as the weeks turned into months, I couldn't ignore the nagging feeling in my gut that something was off. One night, as I was putting Lily to bed, she asked me a question that hit me like a ton of bricks. "Daddy, why doesn't Mommy smile at you anymore?" I didn't know how to answer her. How do you explain to a 10-year-old that sometimes adults have problems that even they can't understand? I kissed her goodnight, my heart heavy with worry and doubt. That night, lying in bed next to Emily, who was already asleep, I felt a crushing loneliness. I stared at the ceiling, wondering when things had started to change. Was it something I did or didn't do? The thoughts swirled in my mind, making it impossible to sleep. I decided to take action. The next day, I took a closer look at Emily's behavior. I started paying attention to the small details that I had previously dismissed. She was more protective of her phone, taking it with her everywhere she went, even to the bathroom. She had also started dressing up more, even on days when she didn't have any important meetings or events. It wasn't long before I stumbled upon the first concrete sign that my suspicions weren't unfounded. One evening, Emily left her laptop open on the kitchen table while she went to take a shower. I wasn't proud of myself, but I felt compelled to take a look. As I scrolled through her emails, my heart pounded in my chest. Most of it was mundane work stuff, but then I found an email thread that made my blood run cold. It was from a guy named Mark, someone she had mentioned a few times as a colleague. The emails were friendly at first, but as I read on, they became more intimate. There were inside jokes, compliments, and plans to meet up outside of work. I felt a sickening lurch in my stomach as I realized what this could mean. I confronted Emily that night. She denied everything, saying they were just friends and that I was overreacting. She accused me of not trusting her and of invading her privacy. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But the seed of doubt had been planted. Over the next few weeks, I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt, but the signs kept piling up. Late nights, secretive phone calls, and the way she seemed to glow after seeing Mark. I knew I had to dig deeper to find the truth, no matter how painful it might be. That's how I found myself here, sharing my story with you all. I need to get this off my chest, to put it into words so I can make sense of it. Writing it down makes it real, and I'm hoping that by doing this, I can find the strength to face whatever comes next. Because one way or another, I need to know the truth about my marriage and what the future holds for me and Lily. The day I discovered the truth was one of those perfectly ordinary days that should have been forgettable. It was a Saturday, and Emily had taken Lily to a friend's birthday party. I was left alone in the house, trying to catch up on some work and household chores. My mind kept drifting back to the uneasy feelings I'd been carrying around for weeks. As I was sorting through a pile of laundry, I noticed Emily's phone on the counter. She must have forgotten to take it with her. The temptation was too strong to resist. I knew it was wrong, but I needed to know what was going on. My hands shook as I unlocked her phone, using the code I had seen her enter countless times. I started with her messages, scrolling through the usual conversations with friends and family. Everything seemed normal until I came across a chat with Mark. My heart raced as I opened the thread. The messages were casual at first, but as I read further, they became more intimate and revealing. Had a great time last night, he wrote. Can't wait to see you again. Emily had replied with a smiley face and a heart emoji. My stomach churned as I continued reading. We need to be careful, she had typed. Tom is starting to get suspicious. Mark's response made my blood boil. Don't worry, we'll figure it out. I miss you already. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. I scrolled back through the messages, seeing the dates and times of their meetings. The pieces of the puzzle started to fall into place, each message confirming my worst fears. I moved on to her email, hoping to find some explanation that might make this all a terrible misunderstanding. But it only got worse. There were more messages from Mark, discussing their plans to meet up during lunch breaks and after work. They had even exchanged photos, some of which were too intimate to be just friendly. In a state of numbness, I decided to check her social media accounts. It was there that I found more evidence, comments and likes on Mark's posts, tagged photos of them together at work events that I had never been told about. The realization hit me like a tidal wave. My wife was having an affair. I sat there, staring at the screen, feeling utterly betrayed. The woman I had loved and trusted for so many years was living a double life. I didn't know what to do next. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions, anger, sadness, confusion. I felt like my world was crumbling around me. Emily and Lily returned home later that afternoon, oblivious to the storm that had been brewing inside me. Emily was laughing, carrying a cake Lily had won in a party game. I watched them from the kitchen, my heart heavy with the weight of what I had discovered. Emily glanced at me, her smile faltering as she sensed something was wrong. Hey, everything okay? She asked, setting the cake down on the counter. I forced a smile, not ready to confront her in front of Lily. Yeah, just a lot on my mind, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Lily ran up to me, showing off her prize. Look, Daddy, I won the cake! I hugged her, trying to hide the turmoil I was feeling. That's awesome, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. I went through the motions, helping Lily with her homework and pretending everything was normal. But inside, I was struggling to keep it together. I needed to confront Emily, but I didn't want to do it while Lily was around. After we put Lily to bed, I knew it was time. I found Emily in the living room, scrolling through her phone. My heart pounded in my chest as I approached her. Emily, we need to talk, I said, my voice trembling. She looked up at me, her expression wary. What's going on, Tom? I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I know about you and Mark. Her face went pale, and she looked away, unable to meet my eyes. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone and showed her the messages I had found. These. Explain these. Emily stared at the screen, her eyes filling with tears. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. The silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. I trusted you, I said, my voice breaking. I gave you everything. And this is how you repay me? Emily started to cry, her shoulders shaking with sobs. Tom, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. How long has this been going on? I demanded, my anger rising. About 6 months, she admitted, wiping her tears away. It started as just flirting, but then it became more. Why? I asked, my voice raw. Why did you do this? I don't know, she sobbed. I felt lonely. You were always so busy with work and Lily, and I needed someone to talk to. Mark was there, and it just happened. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So this is my fault? Because I was taking care of our family? No, that's not what I meant, she said, shaking her head. I know I messed up. I was stupid and selfish. I didn't think about what it would do to you and Lily. I felt a surge of anger and betrayal. You didn't think about us at all. You only thought about yourself. Emily broke down again, unable to respond. I stood there, feeling like my world had been shattered. The woman I loved had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I didn't know if I could ever forgive her. We need to figure out what we're going to do, I said, my voice cold. But right now, I can't even look at you. I turned and walked out of the room, leaving Emily sobbing on the couch. I went upstairs to the spare bedroom and closed the door, feeling a crushing sense of loss. The life I thought I had was gone, replaced by a painful reality I didn't know how to navigate. I lay down on the bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering how we had gotten to this point and what the future held for our family. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I had been hit by a truck. The events of the previous night came rushing back, and I felt the familiar sting of betrayal. I couldn't face Emily right away, so I stayed in the spare bedroom, trying to gather my thoughts. I knew I needed to confront her properly, to understand everything that had happened, but I wasn't sure how to start. Lily's voice echoed through the hallway as she woke up, full of energy and oblivious to the storm brewing between her parents. I heard Emily moving around the kitchen, making breakfast and trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy. I decided to join them, at least for Lily's sake. She didn't deserve to be caught in the middle of this. As I walked into the kitchen, Emily looked up at me, her eyes red and swollen from crying. She opened her mouth to say something, but I shook my head slightly, signaling that we would talk later. She nodded and turned back to the stove, flipping pancakes while Lily chattered on about her plans for the day. "Good morning, Daddy," Lily said, running over to give me a hug. "Can we go to the park today?" I forced a smile and hugged her back. "Maybe later, sweetheart. We'll see how the day goes." We ate breakfast in strained silence, the only sound being Lily's excited chatter. Emily and I avoided each other's eyes, the weight of our unspoken words hanging heavily between us. After breakfast, Lily went off to play in her room, leaving Emily and me alone in the kitchen. Emily took a deep breath and turned to face me. "Tom, we need to talk." I nodded, my heart pounding. "Yeah, we do." We moved to the living room, sitting on opposite ends of the couch. I stared at her, waiting for her to start. She took a deep breath, wiping away the tears that had started to fall again. "I know I messed up," she began, her voice trembling. "I betrayed you, and I don't know if you'll ever be able to forgive me. But I need you to understand why this happened." I clenched my fists, trying to keep my anger in check. "Why, Emily? Why did you do it?" She looked down at her hands, unable to meet my eyes. "I felt so alone, Tom. You were always working, always busy with Lily, and I felt like I was invisible. Mark was there, and he made me feel seen, appreciated. It started as just talking, but then it became more." "You felt alone?" I repeated, my voice rising. "Emily, I was doing everything I could to take care of our family. I was working hard so we could have a good life. How could you turn that around and make it about you?" She flinched at my words, tears streaming down her face. "I know it sounds selfish, but it wasn't just about me. We had drifted apart, Tom. We stopped talking, stopped connecting. I didn't know how to reach you anymore." I shook my head, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. "So instead of talking to me, you turned to someone else? You cheated on me? How is that supposed to help anything?" "I know it was wrong," she sobbed. "I was stupid and selfish. I didn't think about what it would do to you, to Lily. I didn't know what else to do." I stood up, unable to sit still any longer. I paced the room, trying to process everything she was saying. "How long, Emily? How long has this been going on?" "About 6 months," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. 6 months? I repeated, incredulous. "You've been lying to me for 6 months, sneaking around behind my back, and now you expect me to just understand?" "No," she said, shaking her head. "I don't expect you to understand. I just wanted to be honest with you, finally. I wanted to try to make things right." I laughed bitterly. "Make things right? How do you propose we do that, Emily? How do we come back from this?" "I don't know," she whispered. "But I'm willing to try if you are. I want to fix this, Tom. I want us to be a family again." I stopped pacing and looked at her, feeling a mix of anger, hurt, and a tiny flicker of hope. "And Mark? What about him?" "It's over," she said quickly. "I ended it. I told him we couldn't see each other anymore." "How do I know you're telling the truth?" I demanded. "How do I know you won't just go back to him when things get tough?" "You don't," she admitted, tears streaming down her face. "You don't have any reason to trust me right now. but I'm asking you to give me a chance to prove that I can change, that we can rebuild our marriage." I stared at her, torn between my love for her and the pain of her betrayal. I wanted to believe her, to hope that we could find a way to move forward. But the wound was still too fresh, too raw. "I don't know if I can do that, Emily," I said finally, my voice breaking. "I don't know if I can ever trust you again." She nodded, her expression one of deep sorrow. "I understand. And whatever you decide, I'll respect it. I just want you to know that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make things right, for you and for Lily." I didn't respond, unable to find the words. The room fell silent, the weight of our conversation settling heavily between us. I knew I needed time to think, to process everything that had happened. But one thing was clear: our lives would never be the same again. For the rest of the day, we kept our distance, each of us lost in our own thoughts. I took Lily to the park, trying to keep things as normal as possible for her. She deserved that much. But even as I pushed her on the swings and watched her play, my mind was elsewhere, grappling with the enormity of what had happened and what it meant for our future. That night, after Lily was asleep, Emily approached me again. "Tom, I know you need time to process all of this, and I'll give you as much time as you need. But I want you to know that I love you, and I'm committed to fixing this, no matter how long it takes." I looked at her, seeing the sincerity in her eyes, but I also saw the betrayal, the pain she had caused. "I don't know what the future holds for us, Emily," I said quietly, "but right now, I need space. I need time to figure out what I want, what's best for Lily." She nodded, tears welling up again. "I understand, and I'll be here, waiting, whenever you're ready to talk." With that, I went back to the spare bedroom, closing the door behind me. I lay down on the bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult. And as much as it hurt, I had to face it, one step at a time. The days following my confrontation with Emily were some of the hardest I've ever faced. Every morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach, the reality of her betrayal hitting me anew. I went through the motions of daily life, trying to keep things as normal as possible for Lily. But inside, I was struggling to keep it together. Emily and I barely spoke. She respected my need for space, giving me the time and distance I had asked for. But even in the silence, the tension between us was palpable. I could see the regret and sorrow in her eyes, but it wasn't enough to erase the pain she had caused. Every interaction felt like walking on eggshells, and the home we had built together started to feel like a prison. At night, lying alone in the spare bedroom, I would replay the past few months in my mind, trying to pinpoint where things had gone wrong. I wondered if I had been too focused on work, too preoccupied with my responsibilities to notice the cracks in our marriage. I questioned everything: my choices, my priorities, and even my worth as a husband. The self-doubt was crushing, and I felt like I was suffocating under the weight of it all. I tried to stay strong for Lily. She was my anchor, the one thing that kept me from falling apart completely. I made sure to spend as much time with her as possible, taking her to the park, helping her with her homework, and reading her bedtime stories. Her innocence and joy were a stark contrast to the turmoil inside me, and I clung to those moments of normalcy like a lifeline. But even Lily could sense that something was wrong. She started asking questions, wondering why I was sleeping in the spare bedroom, and why Mommy seemed so sad all the time. I didn't know how to explain it to her, how to make her understand without shattering her world. So I told her that Mommy and Daddy were going through a tough time, but that we both loved her very much and were doing our best to work things out. Emily's attempts to mend our relationship were earnest, but felt hollow to me. She tried to be more present, more attentive, doing little things to show she cared. She would cook my favorite meals, leave notes for me around the house, and offer to take care of tasks I usually handled. But each gesture was a painful reminder of the trust she had broken, and I couldn't bring myself to reciprocate. One evening, as I was tucking Lily into bed, she looked up at me with her big, innocent eyes. "Daddy, why don't you and Mommy smile at each other anymore?" Her question pierced my heart, and I struggled to find the words. "Sometimes grown-ups have problems that are hard to talk about, sweetie," I said softly. Buddy, we're trying to figure things out. Just remember that we both love you very much. She nodded, but I could see the confusion and worry in her eyes. It killed me to see her caught in the middle of this mess, and I vowed to protect her from the fallout as much as possible. As the weeks passed, I found myself oscillating between anger and sadness. Some days I was consumed by rage, furious at Emily for what she had done to us. Other days I was overwhelmed by a deep sense of loss, mourning the life we had built together and the future that now seemed so uncertain. I felt like I was on an emotional roller coaster, unable to get off. Friends and family started to notice the strain. I confided in a few close friends, sharing the bare minimum of what had happened. Their support was a balm to my wounded soul, but it also made me realize how isolated I had become. I had been so focused on work and family that I had neglected my own needs, my own happiness. One afternoon, my best friend Dave invited me out for a drink. He had known Emily and me since college and was one of the few people I felt comfortable opening up to. As we sat in the dimly lit bar nursing our beers, he gave me a sympathetic look. "Tom, I'm really sorry about what you're going through," he said, his voice gentle. "But you need to take care of yourself too. You can't pour from an empty cup," I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "I know, Dave. It's just... everything feels so messed up right now. I don't even know where to start." "Start by giving yourself permission to feel," he said. "It's okay to be angry, to be sad. You've been betrayed, and that's not something you can just brush off. But you also need to think about what you want. Do you want to try to work things out with Emily? Or do you need to move on for your own sake?" His words hit me hard. I had been so focused on the pain that I hadn't really thought about what I wanted, about what would make me happy. I knew I needed to figure that out, for my sake and for Lily's. Over the next few weeks, I started to carve out time for myself. I went for long walks, spent time at the gym, and even picked up an old hobby, painting. It felt good to reconnect with parts of myself that I had neglected for so long. Slowly, I started to feel a bit more like myself again, though the pain of Emily's betrayal was never far from my mind. Emily noticed the changes, and she tried to be supportive. She gave me space when I needed it, but she also made an effort to show that she was committed to rebuilding our relationship. We had long, painful conversations about what had happened, about where we had gone wrong and what needed to change. It wasn't easy, and there were times when I wanted to walk away, to give up on us entirely. But for the sake of our family, I kept trying. One evening, Emily suggested we go to counseling together. "I think it could help us, Tom," she said, her eyes pleading. "We need to find a way to communicate better, to understand each other. Please, will you at least consider it?" I hesitated, my pride and anger warring with my desire to heal. But deep down, I knew she was right. We needed help, and we couldn't do it alone. "Okay," I agreed reluctantly. "We'll give it a try." We started seeing a marriage counselor, and though it was one of the hardest things I've ever done, it was also one of the most necessary. The sessions were raw and painful, forcing us to confront our deepest fears and insecurities. But they also helped us understand each other better, to see the cracks that had formed long before the affair, and to start rebuilding from there. Through it all, Lily remained my beacon of hope. Her love and innocence reminded me of what was truly important, of the family we were fighting to save. And though the road ahead was still uncertain, I found solace in the small steps we were taking, in the possibility of healing and moving forward. It was a long, arduous journey, filled with setbacks and moments of doubt. But as time passed, I began to see glimpses of the life we had once shared, the love that had brought us together in the first place. And though I didn't know what the future held, I was determined to keep fighting, to keep trying, for the sake of our family and for my own heart. As the weeks turned into months, I focused on healing and rebuilding my relationship with Emily. However, the pain and anger from her betrayal continued to simmer beneath the surface. There were moments when the desire for revenge gnawed at me, a dark voice in the back of my mind urging me to make her feel the same hurt she had inflicted on me. One day, after another frustrating counseling session where Emily and I struggled to communicate, that voice grew louder. I couldn't shake the feeling of injustice, the need to reclaim some control over my life. As much as I wanted to be the bigger person, part of me wanted Emily to understand the full impact of her actions. My opportunity came unexpectedly. I was at work, trying to focus on a project, when I received a message from an old friend, Sarah. We had dated briefly in college before deciding we were better off as friends. Sarah had moved to another state, and we had lost touch over the years. Seeing her name pop up on my phone was a surprise. "Hey, Tom. It's been ages. How are you doing?" After exchanging a few pleasantries, she mentioned that she was in town for a conference and suggested we catch up over coffee. Initially, I hesitated, unsure if it was a good idea. But the idea of reconnecting with someone from my past, someone who had known me before the complications of marriage and betrayal, was tempting. We met at a quaint little cafe downtown. Seeing Sarah again brought back a flood of memories. She was just as lively and charming as I remembered, and our conversation flowed easily, slipping into a comfortable familiarity. We talked about our college days, our careers, and the twists and turns our lives had taken. At some point, the conversation turned to my marriage. I found myself opening up to her about everything that had happened with Emily. It felt good to unload my burdens to someone who wasn't directly involved, someone who could offer an outsider's perspective. Sarah listened intently, her expression sympathetic. "I'm so sorry you're going through this, Tom," she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "You don't deserve any of this." Her touch was comforting. And for a moment, I allowed myself to imagine what it would be like to be with someone who valued and appreciated me. The thought was intoxicating, and as we continued talking, the lines between friendship and something more began to blur. When it was time to leave, Sarah hugged me tightly, lingering just a bit longer than necessary. "Take care of yourself, Tom. And remember, you deserve to be happy." I walked away from that meeting with mixed emotions. On one hand, it was a reminder that there were people who cared about me, who saw my worth. On the other hand, it stirred up feelings of guilt and confusion. I knew pursuing anything with Sarah would be a step towards revenge, a way to hurt Emily the way she had hurt me. But was that really what I wanted? Back at home, I found Emily in the kitchen, preparing dinner. She looked up as I entered, a tentative smile on her face. "How was your day?" she asked, her tone cautious. "It was fine," I replied, trying to keep my emotions in check. "I met an old friend for coffee." "Oh?" she said, her smile fading slightly. "Anyone I know?" "Sarah from college," I answered, watching her reaction closely. "We just caught up, talked about old times." Emily's eyes flickered with something. Jealousy, perhaps? But she quickly masked it. "That's nice. It's good to reconnect with old friends." For the rest of the evening, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing at a crossroads. Part of me wanted to lash out to make Emily pay for the pain she had caused, but another part of me, the part that had vowed to protect our family and work towards healing, knew that revenge would only lead to more pain and heartache. The next day, I found myself back at the cafe, staring at my phone. I typed out a message to Sarah, my heart pounding. "Hey Sarah, it was great seeing you yesterday. Would you like to meet up again before you leave town?" I hovered over the send button, my finger trembling. In that moment, I felt a surge of anger and defiance. I wanted to take back some control, to feel like I had the upper hand for once. But then I thought of Lily, of the promise I had made to her to try to fix things with her mother. With a heavy sigh, I deleted the message and put my phone away. I couldn't do it. Revenge might bring momentary satisfaction, but it would ultimately destroy everything I was trying to rebuild. I had to find another way to deal with my emotions, a way that wouldn't hurt the people I loved. That evening, I sat down with Emily and told her about my meeting with Sarah. I didn't mention the temptation for revenge, but I did share how it had made me feel. "I realized that part of me wants to hurt you the way you hurt me," I admitted, my voice shaking. "But I don't want to become that person. I want to heal, and I want us to heal, for Lily's sake and for our own." Emily's eyes filled with tears and she reached for my hand. "Thank you for being honest with me, Tom. I know I've hurt you deeply, and I'll do whatever it takes to rebuild your trust. I want us to heal too." We sat there, holding hands, the silence between us heavy with unspoken words. It was a small step, but it felt like a significant one. We were both committed to trying, to finding a way through the pain and anger. In the following weeks, I channeled my energy into more productive outlets. I started running again, something I hadn't done in years. The physical exertion helped clear my mind and release some of the pent-up frustration. I also began journaling, pouring my thoughts and emotions onto paper. It was a therapeutic exercise, allowing me to process everything I was feeling without resorting to destructive actions. Emily continued to work on our relationship as well. She was more present, more attentive, and she made a genuine effort to communicate better. We had our setbacks, our moments of doubt and anger, but we kept pushing forward. There were still days when the desire for revenge reared its ugly head, but I reminded myself of what was truly important. I didn't want to become a person consumed by bitterness and hatred. I wanted to be someone Lily could look up to, someone who chose love and forgiveness over vengeance. In time, I found that the anger began to fade, replaced by a sense of acceptance. Emily and I still had a long way to go, but we were taking it one day at a time. And while the road to healing was far from easy, I knew that as long as we kept trying, there was hope for a better future. Through it all, I held on to the belief that people could change, that relationships could be mended. And as I watched Emily play with Lily in the backyard, their laughter filling the air, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. The months following Emily's affair were a roller coaster of emotions, filled with highs of progress and lows of setbacks. The counseling sessions, though painful, gradually helped us uncover the underlying issues in our marriage. We were both learning to communicate better, to understand each other's needs and feelings more deeply. One evening, after a particularly intense counseling session, Emily and I sat in the living room, the air thick with the weight of our conversation. We had reached a pivotal moment, one where we needed to decide how to move forward. "Tom," Emily began, her voice trembling slightly, "I know things have been incredibly difficult, and I can't even begin to express how sorry I am for everything. But I need to know, what do you want? Do you think we can rebuild this marriage, or do we need to go our separate ways?" I looked at her, seeing the genuine remorse and hope in her eyes. The anger and hurt I had felt for so long had started to ebb, replaced by a cautious optimism. I knew that forgiveness wasn't something that happened overnight, but I also knew that I didn't want to lose my family. "I've thought about this a lot," I said slowly, choosing my words carefully. "I believe we can rebuild, but it's going to take a lot of time and effort from both of us. Trust has to be earned back, and we need to continue working on our communication. But yes, I want to try. I want to see if we can make this work." Emily's eyes filled with tears, and she nodded, relief washing over her face. "Thank you, Tom. I promise I'll do whatever it takes to make things right." With that decision made, we began to take tangible steps toward healing. We continued our counseling sessions, both together and individually, working through our issues and learning new ways to connect and support each other. We made a conscious effort to spend more quality time together, rediscovering the things that had initially brought us together. One weekend, we decided to take a short trip to a nearby cabin, just the two of us. We left Lily with my parents, knowing she was in good hands. The cabin was nestled in the woods, a peaceful retreat away from the stress and distractions of everyday life. It was a chance for us to reconnect, to focus solely on each other. The first night, we sat by the fireplace, sipping wine and talking. We reminisced about the early days of our relationship, the adventures we had shared, and the dreams we had for the future. It was a reminder of the love and history that bound us together, even in the face of betrayal. As the days went by, we hiked through the woods, cooked meals together, and simply enjoyed each other's company. The intimacy we had lost began to rekindle, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a genuine sense of closeness with Emily. On the last night of our trip, we sat on the porch, watching the stars. Emily reached for my hand, her touch warm and comforting. "I'm so grateful for this time together," she said softly. "I feel like we're finally starting to heal." I nodded, squeezing her hand. "I feel the same way. We still have a long road ahead, but I'm hopeful." We returned home with a renewed sense of commitment to our marriage. We knew it wouldn't be easy, but we were determined to keep working on our relationship, to build a stronger foundation for our future. Lily noticed the change in us as well. She seemed happier, more at ease, and the tension that had once filled our home began to dissipate. Seeing her smile, knowing that we were creating a better environment for her, reinforced my resolve to make our marriage work. However, I also knew that part of healing meant addressing the betrayal directly. One evening, after putting Lily to bed, I sat down with Emily to discuss the affair more openly. "I need to understand why it happened," I said gently. "I know you've explained it before, but I need to hear it again. I need to know that we've addressed everything." Emily took a deep breath, her eyes reflecting the pain and regret she felt. "It wasn't about you, Tom. It was about my own insecurities, my need for validation. I felt disconnected and lonely, and instead of talking to you about it, I made the worst decision possible. I'm so sorry for the hurt I caused you." I listened, my heart aching but also feeling a sense of closure. Hearing her acknowledge her mistakes and take responsibility was a crucial step in rebuilding trust. "I appreciate your honesty," I said, "and I forgive you. It's not easy, but I'm choosing to let go of the anger and move forward. We both made mistakes, and we both need to learn from them." Emily's eyes filled with tears, and she nodded. "Thank you, Tom. I'm committed to making this work, to being the partner you deserve." As time passed, we continued to make progress. There were still difficult moments, times when the memories of the affair would resurface and trigger old wounds, but each time we faced them together, using the tools we had learned in counseling to navigate the challenges. We also made a conscious effort to strengthen our family bond. We planned regular family outings, took trips together, and spent more quality time with Lily. Seeing the joy on her face, knowing that she felt secure and loved, made all the hard work worth it. Eventually, the pain of the past began to fade, replaced by a renewed sense of love and commitment. We weren't the same couple we had been before the affair, but in many ways we were stronger. We had faced our darkest moments and come out the other side, more resilient and more connected. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Emily turned to me, a smile playing on her lips. "Tom, I love you. I'm so grateful for this second chance, for the life we're building together." I smiled back, feeling a deep sense of peace and contentment. "I love you too, Emily. We've been through a lot, but I believe in us. I believe in our future." As we sat there hand in hand, I knew that we had made the right decision. We had chosen to fight for our marriage, to work through the pain and rebuild what had been broken. It hadn't been easy, and there were still challenges ahead, but we were committed to facing them together. In the end, it wasn't just about forgiveness or revenge. It was about finding a way to move forward, to heal and grow as individuals and as a couple. And as I looked at Emily, I knew that we were on the right path, one that would lead us to a stronger, more fulfilling future. The journey of rebuilding our marriage was long and filled with many ups and downs, but as time passed, the trust between Emily and me grew stronger. The wounds of the past began to heal, and we started to look forward to the future with hope and optimism. Our commitment to each other, to our family, and to the process of healing had brought us closer than ever before. One day, about a year after the affair had come to light, Emily and I sat down to reflect on everything we had been through. We had decided to make this a regular practice, a way to ensure that we never lost sight of what was important, and to keep our lines of communication open. "Can you believe how far we've come?" Emily asked, her voice filled with wonder. "It feels like a lifetime ago that we were on the brink of falling apart." I nodded, thinking back to those dark days filled with pain and uncertainty. "Yeah, it's been a long road, but I'm proud of us, Emily. We didn't give up, and we've come out stronger because of it." She smiled, her eyes reflecting the love and gratitude she felt. "I'm proud of us too, Tom. I know it wasn't easy, but it was worth it. I feel like we're in a better place now than we've ever been." We spent the evening reminiscing about our journey, the challenges we had faced, and the lessons we had learned. It was a cathartic experience, a way to acknowledge our past while celebrating our progress. As we talked, I realized how much I had grown as a person. The betrayal had forced me to confront my own vulnerabilities and to work on my emotional resilience. It had also taught me the importance of communication and the need to prioritize my relationships. Emily had undergone her own transformation. She had faced her insecurities and worked tirelessly to regain my trust. She had become more self-aware and more committed to our marriage than ever before. Watching her growth and dedication filled me with a sense of pride and admiration. The experience had also strengthened our bond with Lily. We had made a conscious effort to create a nurturing and loving environment for her, ensuring that she felt secure and supported. The joy and happiness in her eyes were a testament to the positive changes we had made in our family. As I looked back on everything we had been through, I realized that the affair, painful as it was, had ultimately been a catalyst for growth and change. It had forced us to confront the issues in our marriage and to work on rebuilding a stronger foundation. We had learned to appreciate each other more deeply and to cherish the moments we shared. One evening, as we were sitting on the porch, enjoying the tranquility of the sunset, Emily turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Tom, I've been thinking about something," she said, her voice soft. "What's that?" I asked, curious. "I've been thinking about renewing our vows," she said, her eyes shining with emotion. "I want to reaffirm our commitment to each other, to celebrate how far we've come, and to look forward to the future." The idea filled me with a sense of joy and excitement. "I think that's a wonderful idea, Emily. Let's do it." We decided to have a small, intimate ceremony with our closest friends and family. It was a beautiful day, filled with love, laughter, and the promise of a new beginning. As we stood before our loved ones renewing our vows, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey we had taken, and for the love that had brought us back together. In the months that followed, life returned to a new kind of normal. We continued to grow and evolve as a couple, always mindful of the lessons we had learned. Our relationship was not perfect. No relationship ever is. But it was stronger and more resilient than ever before. Looking back on our journey, I realized that the experience had taught me many valuable lessons. I had learned the importance of communication, trust, and forgiveness. I had learned that love is not just about the good times, but also about standing by each other during the darkest moments. Most importantly, I had learned that healing is possible, even after the deepest betrayals. It takes time, effort, and a willingness to confront the pain, but it is possible. Emily and I had chosen to fight for our marriage, and that choice had led us to a place of renewed love and commitment. As I sat on the porch one evening, watching the sunset with Emily by my side and Lily playing in the yard, I felt a profound sense of peace and contentment. Our journey had been difficult, but it had also been rewarding. We had faced our challenges head-on and had come out stronger on the other side. In the end, it wasn't just about overcoming the betrayal. It was about rediscovering our love for each other, building a stronger foundation for our family, and learning to appreciate the beauty of the present moment. It was about choosing to forgive, to heal, and to move forward with hope and optimism. Our story was one of resilience, growth, and the enduring power of love. And as I looked at Emily and Lily, I knew that no matter what the future held, we would face it together, as a family.